Okay, welcome back, music fans. It is Dave. I am here. This is the Real Music Observer, observing real music in real time for real people, just like you and me. Gonna talk about Van Halen today. Oh boy, haven't talked about Van Halen in a while. There's really no breaking Van Halen news to speak of, other than the fact that if you look back at that tour that the band did with Dave a couple years ago, and I was looking at that Jimmy Kimmel appearance where Dave had a bandage on his nose. Something happened, I think, regarding a chair, or I can't remember the entire story behind the injury, but he goes out there with the bandage. You know, the show must go on. Dave, the master showman, and he's out there belching out lyrics the phrasing is off. They're doing Hot for Teacher. He's doing this rant about, what theater used to be over there, and, we used to play this when it was that, and going off script, going off pretty much everything that's in this song. Dave is just mutilating. Okay, now, the Dave fans who like Dave, I get it. Those first Van Halen albums were groundbreaking. The debut album especially. I remember getting that album, and I had been listening to things like Billy Joel and the Eagles and stuff like that. And, I mean, this was like touching nitrous oxide. This was just, it was different. It had a sheen to it. It had a gloss to it. And it was so powerful and so high energy. And it was metal, but it was torque-driven metal. It had a poppiness to it. It had a melodic quality to it. It wasn't Black Sabbath. It wasn't anything that was sort of doomy and gloomy. This was a party band with a guitar player who was from the Guitar Gods. Okay, and he did stuff that nobody else had ever done. And he was talked about year after year while that lineup was together. He was Guitar Player Magazine's guy. Everybody wanted to be Eddie. I remember hanging out with 15 and 16-year-old guys, and they were all trying to be Eddie. I was not a musician, but I occasionally wanted to play one on TV. But the point being is that the early Van Halen was spectacular. But I got reports from folks that one of the reasons Warner never issued a Van Halen live album when Dave was vocalist back in the heyday is that he was way too scatterbrained. And moving into the future, you combine, a David Lee Roth who's aged quite a bit, who doesn't have the vocal range that he used to have, and who is doing some goofy things. I mean, Eddie more or less said, hey, he's not my friend. I can't, sort of bond with this guy. He's out there telling everybody he listens to dance music, 800 beats per minute and all this crap. Weird stuff. And Dave's always trying to act young, and Eddie's like, look, I don't dye my hair. I'm, content to be who I am at this age. I understand Dave trying to be somebody that he was 30 or 40 years ago. And certainly you can understand there's this element that Dave has always had where, he's the master showman. He's in control of everything. And age and his lack thereof of certain vocal characteristics that he used to possess, those are taking their toll on David Lee Roth. And I don't think you're going to see Dave again with Van Halen. And if Van Halen comes back together, I believe it will be with Sammy Hagar. Sammy can still sing. He's 69 years old, but he can still sing. The only thing that's changed about Sammy's voice is it's a little raspier on some of the more difficult tunes to sing. Are you going to get, the 5150 Sammy? No. But you're probably going to get a fairly good 90s Sammy. So I think there is a difference between the 80s Sammy and everything else. I mean, in the 80s, he just did stuff that was insane. And the band even said on 5150 they wrote because they wrote to his strength. The Dreams, for instance. I mean, how do you do that? But he did. And I think if anybody is to come back to this band as a lead singer, it's going to be Sammy Hagar. I think Dave is finished because I think if Dave was more of a team player and actually tried to sing the songs the way they were supposed to be sung, and I know the Van Halen brothers know this about Dave, that they sacrifice quality for showmanship, because that's what happens when Dave comes back. The reason that they never kept Dave very long, I know he came back after that whole MTV thing, where after 10 years or so they were standing on the same stage, and it was cool. It was amazing to see them all up there. Turned out to be a big PR stunt. And I would say this, as far as the material they recorded recently, both the live album they did and the album they did with Tattoo, which I think Tattoo was the closest thing to vintage 80s Van Halen that you're going to probably ever hear again. It was a focused band. It was a good concept. It was a good song. It was well written. It was also Eddie just played his ass off on that track, and we realized again how amazing Eddie Van Halen is as a guitarist. But A Different Kind of Truth, which was the name of the album, it didn't really live up to a Van Halen album as far as a start-to-finish album. It had some pretty interesting moments. It had some limitations, more or less because, again, Dave is a little scatterbrain. And I know they did some acoustic stuff unplugged. They did like Ice Cream Man and stuff. You can find that on YouTube. I actually really enjoyed that stuff. And that was a more focused David Lee Roth. But I don't think the guy can stay focused. I think he's just scatterbrain. And really, in a live setting anyway, maybe they can record more studio stuff and have it work. And the Van Halen brothers, by the way, are the kind of guys who would give me the middle finger and say, you know what, we're just going to do this again with Dave for whatever reason. Maybe they think it's a good marketing strategy to go back to the original Van Halen. However, they aren't really the original Van Halen without Michael Anthony. And that would be the kicker. Like I say, if Sammy were to come back, I think he would insist on Michael Anthony. Again, Wolfie does a good job. I don't have a problem with Wolfie. But vocally speaking, Michael Anthony, and everybody has said this except the Van Halen brothers. The critics have said it. David Lee Roth has said it. And obviously Sammy believes in it, is that Michael Anthony's voice was intricate to the way that band recorded, the way they layered the harmonies. Listen to the song When It's Love, and listen to the song Feel Your Love Tonight. And one from one era, one from another era. And what's common about them is Michael Anthony's vocals cut through and make the song matter so much more. And you're loving it, you're digging it. So any reunion, I think, with Sammy is contingent upon the Van Halen brothers telling Wolfie to step aside and bringing Mikey back, as Sammy likes to call him. So that's my theory on Van Halen. We shall see what will happen. You never know. Dave is a persuasive man, and he may just get these guys to go out on the road again, at least, and do another tour. Or maybe just record a studio album with no tour. I don't know if Dave can hack another tour. His voice is just, it's not there. It's just not there like it used to be. I'm Dave. This is the Real Music Observer, and we will observe some real music again real soon.